Capital growth, Veronica.
Oh, yes, these are terms your accountant might use. We certainly use them, and we mentioned it earlier when it came around equity. In simple terms, this is the amount that your property increases in value since you buy it. Very, very important. So it's a rate, usually expressed as a percentage, but it also can be expressed as a dollar value. And it's something that we really, really draw attention to, because a lot of people think if it goes up in value that you've done really well. But understanding the percentage versus
compared to what?
Yeah, compared to what else you perhaps could have bought. Very important.
And capital growth is something that, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but capital growth is something that happens as a result of the market, not necessarily as a result of something that you do.
You're buying the right asset.
Yeah, you can manufacture growth by doing things, but it is a market force. So actually purchasing the right asset at the start to make sure that the growth that you experience, and one of the most incredible things about the property market is this compounding nature of capital growth. So if you get 1% growth on $500,000 in the first year, but you get 10% in the second year, you haven't got 11% growth. You've actually got, you've got the 10% on top of the 500,000 plus 1%, and then the next and so forth. So you're actually, and the beauty of property is that it compounds over time. And that's where a lot of people see that capital growth element come into play for them, as opposed to gold or another asset class that you might invest in.
And back to that leverage thing, because you can borrow more money, therefore you've got more money in the market growing, as opposed to just a small amount of deposit that you've saved. But it's funny, with prices rising, a lot of people say, oh, my God, it's not possible. It can't keep going up, because, how can it be? And in some of the suburbs that we buy in Sydney, how can it be that a first-home buyer is spending $3 or $4 million for a house? Or even if it's $1 million, how can a first-home buyer possibly spend $1 million on a house? And it's like in an established area where people are upgrading, and those upgraders are buying a house for $1 million, they're not borrowing $1 million. They're not even borrowing 800,000. They've sold something maybe worth 600, and they're borrowing the difference. And that's where the capital growth is so important, and the equity and the leverage, all these words, is why that's so important, because once you're in the market and you've got a property that's growing in value, then your next step, what seems like, oh my God, how could anyone afford $1 million? Well, you're not borrowing $1 million. You're borrowing the difference. And that's why it's so important to focus on capital growth.
And the drivers of capital growth. Yep.